It's time for the third lesson in the Earth atmosphere topic. Remember, don't write down any answers until you get to the writing task later in the video. In today's starter quiz, this is to check your memory of last lesson. So pause the video, don't write it down, just think of the answers, but you must pause long enough to think of all the answers to check your memory of last lesson. Pause it now. Here we go with the answers. Give yourself 1 mark for each gas that you got correct, so that'll give you a score out of 12. So hydrogen and helium, Earth's first atmosphere. Volcanoes gave out carbon dioxide, ammonia and water. The oceans reduced the amount of water and carbon dioxide in the air. Plants give out oxygen by photosynthesis. They take in carbon dioxide. Plants changed ammonia into nitrogen. All living things take in oxygen for respiration and give out carbon dioxide. There are 12 gases altogether. Give yourself a score out of 12. See how good your memory was of last lesson's work. Today's driving question is, how did evolution affect the atmosphere? So we're going to be zooming in on the part to do with plants and animals and the order things evolved in and how that affected the Earth's atmosphere. Right, what if the Earth's history had happened in a single day? Well, we're going to go through like a timeline of the Earth's atmosphere and convert it into time so that you can see when these things happen on a scale which is more understandable, because it's really hard to understand 4.6 billion years and how long that really is. So we're going to look at it in terms of a clock. What time on the clock would it be when different animals evolved? Firstly, revision of last lesson. Put these stages in order. A slightly different answer to last lesson. Work it out, please. Pause the video for long enough to put these letters into order. Pause it now. Here we go with the answers. Firstly, D. Earth was a ball of molten rock with a hydrogen and helium atmosphere. So, revision from last lesson to check you understand the order that things happened in on Earth. Pause the video and put these letters into order. Pause it now. Here we go with the answers. Firstly, D. Earth was a ball of molten rock with a hydrogen and helium atmosphere. Then the crust formed and volcanoes gave out CO2, water and ammonia. Then the oceans formed. So water and some carbon dioxide moved out of the atmosphere. Then plants evolved, doing photosynthesis, taking in carbon dioxide and giving out oxygen. Then plants also converted ammonia into nitrogen gas. And finally, animals evolved, doing respiration, taking in some oxygen and giving out some carbon dioxide. Right, so we're going to put these times into a clock as if the Earth's history was a day. So imagine a 24-hour day. This clock is going to go around twice. So 12 a.m. to 12 midday and then 12 midday to 12 midnight. So 12 a.m. on our clock is 4.6 billion years ago. Earth was a ball of molten rock with a hydrogen and helium atmosphere. Then 4.3 billion years ago, about 1 a.m. on our imaginary clock, volcanoes gave out carbon dioxide, water and ammonia. Next, about 4 billion years ago, so about 3 a.m. on our imaginary clock, the oceans formed as the Earth cooled, and water moved from the atmosphere onto the land to form the oceans. Some carbon dioxide dissolved in the oceans. Now, not long after that, the first life started to evolve on Earth, we think, and that was single cells. Single cell organisms evolved in the ocean. Then, about 1 billion years later, so 3 billion years ago, about 8 a.m. on our clock, some of those cells started doing photosynthesis. They took in carbon dioxide and they gave out oxygen, single-celled organisms, starting to give out oxygen. Then, 2.7 billion years ago, so about 8:30 on our imaginary clock, algae evolved. Now, algae is a plant which grows in the ocean. It does photosynthesis. It takes in carbon dioxide, it gives out oxygen. And we think a lot of algae evolved, and that had a big effect on the Earth's atmosphere. So algae is a plant which grows in the seas, in the oceans, and it does photosynthesis, so it gives out a lot of oxygen into the atmosphere. And that first evolved about 2.7 billion years ago. Then another billion years after that, so we've gone all the way around the clock now to about 6 p.m. in the afternoon, multi-cell organisms evolved. So then they're starting to do more respiration, so using oxygen from the atmosphere, giving out carbon dioxide. Then from those multicell organisms, there were sea insects, sea creatures, and then eventually fish evolved. This is about 9 p.m. on our imaginary clock. So most of the way through the Earth's history, about 600 million years ago, fish evolved. At the same time, plants moved onto the land. So there were then plants on land as well as in the ocean. So that helped to continue the amount of photosynthesis. Then some fish began to evolve, move up onto the land as reptiles, and then also some of the sea insects moved onto the land as land insects. That was about 400 million years ago, 10 p.m. in the Earth's history. So pretty late on in the Earth's history when all these animals, amphibians and reptiles started to evolve on land. Then, another 100 million years after that, mammals, birds, and flowering plants evolved. So that's about 11 p.m. on our imaginary clock, so pretty late in the Earth's history. Dinosaurs went extinct about 65 million years ago, about 11:30 p.m. on this clock. Humans arrived 2.5 million years ago, like Neanderthals, early humans. That's even later on the clock, about 11:55, something like that. Then, human beings, Homo sapiens, evolved around 200,000 years ago, 11:59 p.m. on our clock of the Earth's atmosphere. Okay, so humans have not been around for very long. But algae, I mentioned earlier, had a really important effect on the Earth's atmosphere. But what is algae? What did I say about algae? Which is the correct answer? A, B, C, or D? Pause it now. Okay, what was the correct answer? It was C. Algae is a plant which first evolved in the ocean 2.7 billion years ago. And what effect did algae have on the Earth's early atmosphere? Think of a sentence in your mind. Don't write it down. Just think of a sentence. What effect did algae have on the Earth's atmosphere? Pause the video and think of a sentence now. Okay, it's important to use these moments to check your understanding. The correct understanding is algae took in carbon dioxide. They did photosynthesis. So that means the amount of carbon dioxide in the air decreased. They gave out oxygen as a product of photosynthesis. So the amount of oxygen in the air increased. Algae had a big effect on the Earth's early atmosphere because it was one of the first plants to evolve in the oceans. A lot of algae in the oceans, doing a lot of photosynthesis, taking in carbon dioxide and giving out a lot of oxygen. Okay, let's look in more detail at photosynthesis. There's a bit of biology revision here. In photosynthesis, plants take in carbon dioxide and water and they react them to make sugar plus oxygen. Sugar is then stored in the form of starch. That's the plant's food. Oxygen is a waste product, a byproduct. Lucky for us, they give out plants into the atmosphere, oxygen into the atmosphere, which we can then breathe in. But the point of photosynthesis is to make the sugar and starch for the plant to use. Here is the symbol equation. 6 lots of carbon dioxide reacts with 6 lots of water to make 1 lot of glucose, C6H12O6, plus 6 lots of oxygen. Okay, now as part of that process, plants take in energy from the sun and they store that energy in the glucose. That's the point of photosynthesis. It does have this side effect of also putting oxygen into the atmosphere. Very handy for us and for all other living things who need oxygen. Right, now have a think about this question. When animals then arrived, quite late on in the Earth's history, but when animals did evolve, what effect did that have on the Earth's early atmosphere? In what way do animals change the gases in the atmosphere? Pause the video. Use this opportunity to check your understanding. Think of your own answer first before you unpause it to check if you got it right. Pause it now. Okay, so insects, other animals do respiration, take in oxygen from the atmosphere. So they're decreasing the amount of oxygen in the atmosphere slightly to do respiration. This decreases the amount of oxygen in the air. And as a byproduct, we give out carbon dioxide. And that increases the amount of carbon dioxide in the air. So the effect of insects and all animals is to take in oxygen and give out carbon dioxide through respiration. Let's look in more detail at respiration. We take the sugar and starch originally from plants, and we then react it with oxygen in every cell of our body in order to release the energy from the sugar. That then has 2 waste products, carbon dioxide and water. We keep most of the water in our bodies, but we breathe out the carbon dioxide. Here is the simple equation. Glucose, C6H12O6 plus 6 lots of oxygen reacts to make 6 lots of carbon dioxide, and 6 lots of water. But please remember, the whole point of that is to release the energy that's stored in the sugar so that we have energy to do all of the things that we need to do. Right, here are some facts. For each one, pause it and decide if it's referring to photosynthesis or respiration. Again, use this to check your understanding. Do you get it? Pause it, see how many you can get out of 8. Pause it now. Let's go through the answers. Takes in carbon dioxide, photosynthesis does that. Gives out carbon dioxide, that's respiration. Respiration takes in oxygen. Photosynthesis is the one that gives out oxygen. Photosynthesis takes in energy from the sun. Respiration releases energy from sugar. And the number 7 is the simple equation for photosynthesis. Carbon dioxide plus water makes glucose plus oxygen. Number 8 is the simple equation for respiration. Glucose plus oxygen makes carbon dioxide plus water. Okay, back to the algae again. Algae were really important in the history of the Earth's atmosphere for 3 reasons. One of these reasons is false. Can you find which one? Pause the video, decide which of these facts is false. Is it A, B, C, or D? Pause it now. Okay, C was the false one. So A, B, and D are true. Algae were among the first plants to do photosynthesis, and it was 2.7 billion years ago. They did give out oxygen, which allowed sea creatures and eventually animals to evolve, and algae did reduce the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and they increased the amount of oxygen in the atmosphere through doing photosynthesis. It is time for the writing task. And so once again, go to Google Classroom, find your Google Doc. It's got everything you need in there. It's got the driving question for lesson 3. It's got the information for describe, explain, use, combine. It's got the sentence starters in it. It's got everything that you need. So go and use that document. Get your answers in there. That'll save you time. You can do it on a mobile phone even, as long as you've got Google Doc installed on your phone. If you don't have that installed, you'll be able to read it but not write in it. So if you're on a phone, just check that you've got Google Docs installed so you can edit your document and actually write your answers in. All of this information is in the Google Doc. This is what you'll need to do for describe, explain, use, and combine. Let's look at the sentence starters. What were the changes to the atmosphere caused by photosynthesis and respiration? Which one gives in carbon dioxide and takes out oxygen? Which changes which? Explain the importance of algae in the Earth's atmosphere. Then more detail on the equations for photosynthesis. And then the extension. How did the evolution of plants and animals affect the history and development of the Earth's atmosphere? Write your answers in your Google Doc and then come back here to this video for the answers. It is really important for your learning to write your own answers, then check them against the video to see if you got them right. So go to your Google Doc, type your answers, and then come back to this video to check if you were right. Go for it. I'm about to move this on to the answers. Here we go. Check the answers in your Google Doc. If you got something totally wrong, then change it. Make sure you've got correct notes in your Google Doc. Make sure you complete Today I Have Achieved to help you keep track of how you are doing as a science student, what that says about you, were you able to use your understanding correctly. Right, describing facts and keywords. The changes to the atmosphere caused by photosynthesis are plants take in carbon dioxide and give out oxygen. For respiration, all living organisms take in oxygen and give out carbon dioxide. So we're describing the changes of gases for photosynthesis and respiration. Then explaining the main idea. Algae is a living organism in the ocean that carries out photosynthesis. Algae changed the Earth's early atmosphere because they evolved in the ocean and started taking in carbon dioxide and giving out oxygen through photosynthesis. Why is that so important? That's where oxygen came from in the early atmosphere. And without that, animals would not have been able to evolve. More detail about photosynthesis and respiration. Carbon dioxide plus water makes sugar plus oxygen. That's photosynthesis. 6 lots of carbon dioxide react with 6 lots of water to make glucose plus 6 lots of oxygen. Respiration, you'll notice the word equation and the symbol equations are exactly the opposite way around. Sugar plus oxygen makes carbon dioxide plus water. Glucose plus 6 lots of oxygen makes 6 lots of carbon dioxide plus 6 lots of water. So what are the differences, apart from the fact that the equations look like they're back to front compared to each other? Well, the whole point of photosynthesis is to take energy from sunlight and store it inside sugar. Plants make their own food, sugar, and they store it as starch, and it's got energy from the sun stored inside it. The whole point of respiration is to release the energy from the sugar by reacting the sugar with oxygen. The carbon dioxide and the water are waste products of respiration. The point is to release the energy from the sugar. Right. Evolution of plants and animals affected the atmosphere because life evolved in the oceans, and before that, the atmosphere was mostly carbon dioxide. Evolution changed this because when algae evolved, they began to do photosynthesis. This decreased the amount of carbon dioxide and increased the amount of oxygen. There would have been no oxygen without algae in the oceans doing photosynthesis. As plants developed over 2 billion years, a lot of the Earth's history is taken up by plants evolving and spreading through the oceans, more and more oxygen in the atmosphere, and eventually there was enough to support the evolution of animals. Animals need oxygen and glucose from plants, oxygen from the air, glucose from plants to release energy through respiration. And without the algae, without the plants in the ocean, animal life would not have been able to evolve. Animals, however, carry out respiration. So do all living things. That means that we take in oxygen and release CO2. So we have the effect of decreasing the amount of oxygen in the atmosphere and increasing the amount of carbon dioxide. And as the population of humans and animals keeps growing, we're going to have more and more changes to the atmosphere caused by us. Today I've achieved, can I describe the changes in gases caused by photosynthesis and respiration? Can I explain the effect of algae on the Earth's early atmosphere? Can I use understanding to write word and symbol equations for photosynthesis and respiration? Can I combine ideas together to explain in detail how evolution of plants and animals affected the development of the atmosphere? Whatever your achievement today, if you've put a good effort into your answers in your Google Doc and written in sentences and put a good effort in, you deserve to feel really proud of yourself. Please do keep track of your achievements from today I have achieved. And also remember to get the credit for doing your work. Don't submit your Google Doc yet. Do that at the end of the topic. Instead, go to the video for lesson 3 and click mark as done. Then there is a short multiple choice quiz for lesson 3 to complete as well. Really important that you do that. We are checking that you complete your work. Thank you very much, Year 9 and Year 10. Well done for your effort today. And next week we'll be moving on to lesson 4. Thank you very much. Well done.